Hello, my friends, and welcome to episode number 12 of the podcast. I've missed you last week, but I hope you're all caught up after last week's hiatus and ready for a brand new, crunchy, and organic and warm, fresh off the oven, ready-made audio meal for your lovely, lovely ears. So, this week, I'm inviting you to a very open and honest conversation with my good friend Rashi Yadav. And Rashi she has a background in journalism and international relations, and she has her own podcast, Let's Be Rational with Rashi, in which she focuses on opening your mind and have discussions on taboo and complicated topics. It's available on Spotify for your brains to listen to. Rashi is a strong, multifaceted and charismatic woman that I really admire, and that has been a huge inspiration for me to start my own podcast. We talked about some dense topics for an hour and a half, and it could have gone for longer, but with open minds and open hearts and with honesty and respect. I invite you to join in with that same attitude, and thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoy it. When did we last see each other?
It should be February then. Yeah. But yeah, that was, I remember. Oh yeah, you were asking me about the podcast and everything. It's like,
Yeah.
I actually want to start this podcast. Give me tips. And I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Now look at you, pro at podcast.
Why would you say I'm a pro?
You're pretty good. You're pretty like consistent. Because when I started, I remember being trying to be like a perfectionist. And I know a lot of people say that perfectionist means that you're just being scared, and which is actually true. I was pretty scared of putting myself out there. But yeah, and life came in the way. I had like so many things going on. But yeah, it's been quite a journey. But yeah, but I think this whole COVID situation has also given me so much time to like reflect on how I want to do my podcast. You know, what direction I want to give it. Yeah. It's been, but I've seen you doing so many podcasts like every week. I don't know if it's every week, but I see a lot of episodes that you've done.
Yeah, so the idea is every week, every Friday. That's the release date. Yeah.
See, I'm like, I can't do every week. Like I started out thinking that I would do it every week, but I just couldn't do it. I was like, no, it's like I have too much going on. Like, but hopefully in the future. But yeah. But super happy to see you.
Yeah, it's been good. So I don't know if we've started recording, by the way. I'm just going with whatever.
No, this is let's start over.
Start over. I don't know. The thing is, well, hello. Well, the whole thing of me wanting to have you on the podcast, and you've been on my list for a while.
Thank you.
Is because you were I'll consider you my biggest inspiration to start the podcast. So when I saw you last, when we can't remember when it was, yeah, I had because I had a vision I always wanted to create a podcast. I knew that. I never knew what about. I knew that I wanted to do something related to music.
Yeah.
And it just didn't feel like I could do it. I don't know if it didn't feel right or not. I would love to do something like the idea that I told you at the time. But what I got from you, and the biggest learning substance for me, was you just have to do it. It's just getting it done.
Yeah.
And Yeah, and like just forgiving my imperfections and forgiving all the equipment that I lacked and forgiving the worthiness of doing it, you know?
Yeah.
So that's probably the biggest thing that I got from our meeting was, yeah, you just gotta do it, you know, and you figure it out around, along the way.
Yeah, I'm so glad you took up on my advice, and thanks for keeping me on your list for your podcast. It really means a lot to me. But yeah, I think just on that advice, like I think I took that advice for myself, and it was not that somebody told me that I have to do it. I think it was just like, yeah, one day, I think I told you, I was sharing that with you that one day I was like, you know, I got to do this podcast, and I announced it on Instagram that this week of May, or I think it was June, I'm going to release my first episode of my podcast. And yeah, I'll let you know what the name is going to be, what's it going to be about. But it's going to be about something that inspires me, and that's it. And then I had another month to sort of figure out how I'm going to do it.
Mhm.
And yeah, I just gave myself that time limit, and I just, yeah, went and explored everything that I could possibly know about podcast, looked at hundreds of videos. Oh my God, it was crazy. But yeah, and then when I finally did it, I was like, it's not that difficult. Like it's, obviously it was challenging a little bit with editing and everything because I'd never used GarageBand. I was using GarageBand for editing, but it was fine at the end. It was just like, it's so fulfilling when you hear your first episode. I don't know if you had that feeling. The first time you hear your podcast with the show reel, and then you're listening to your own voice, and it's just such an incredible like experience. I was like, oh my God, I have arrived. It's just such a massive feeling. Yeah. So yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, yeah, it was nice to start. It was nice to do it. And one of the main reasons why I started the podcast is so I could just do it, you know. For me, it's and still is, it's all about the doing it. It's all about
Yeah.
the getting it done and the consistency and doing it every week. For me, I gave myself a license to suck, to be really bad at it. I gave myself a license to not create something perfect, but just to create something that I needed to do. And the whole thing is, and how it started, it was like, well, I don't know what I'm meant to do with anything, with who I am, or what I'm meant to do in this terrestrial life regarding career and whatever. And why not just expose and share that? And that's also something that I think it's needed. It's just something is people to share what they want, people sharing
Yep.
what they want to find. Because I think in the end, life is all about a search of a lot of people are searching different things about what they want, um,
Yeah.
who they want to be, trying to discover that.
Yeah, that's why I so resonated with your podcast because it was also kind of like a self-discovery for me because at that point in time, I didn't know what I want to do with this podcast. I had some idea that I want to bring on people on this podcast who could share their life stories or something that they've gone through in life that has changed them in some transformative way. But apart from that, like I had no idea. Like I still am sort of, I don't have that clear vision, but I am sort of, I enjoy the process. I enjoy listening to people, expanding that community. And I think through this podcast, the best thing that has happened to me is just meeting a lot of like-minded people. And if not like by like-minded, I mean people who have the same sense of purpose and intention. They might have completely different opinions and political views and whatever. They might be religious or on a lot of in a lot of ways we might not be, compatible. But the fact that on a very human level we could discuss um, very vulnerable stories from their life transformative and they have changed the way they are and they have changed the way they look at life. It's been like really amazing. And yeah, and I hope to meet more such people and just know such people and give them an opportunity, even if, they're just like any other ordinary person that but you know that they are special in some way, and giving them a voice. I think it's so important.
Yeah. So for anyone that doesn't know about your podcast and who you are, by the way, I love the name.
Plug it.
I love
Plug
the name. I love the Let's Be Rational name. I just love it. Yeah, tell everyone what your podcast is about, what you're looking for, what you want, and sell
Okay,
it.
I will. Okay, I'm gonna do a deep plug in here. So the name of my podcast is Let's Be Rational. Rational, and the spelling is Rashional because my name is Rashi. So it's like a cheeky wordplay, and yeah, I'll have to give the credit to a friend of mine who I also interviewed on my podcast, Zuhair Rehan, who is a music artist, and yeah, he just came up with this cheeky word rational, and I was like, okay, it's gonna be Let's Be Rational. So I started this podcast last year in 2019 in I think May. And obviously I started with the idea of just talking about a lot of taboo topics and a lot of social issues, because I felt a bit, I don't know what's the word, but when you come from a background which is, or you come from a culture which is sort of doesn't really celebrate the uniqueness of you and sort of downplays your uniqueness, wants you to hide your uniqueness and wants you to fit into that society mold. I felt it was very important for me to raise my voice because a lot of my friends have always told me that we sort of commend you for being bold, for being who you are. And I felt like I had to put it in words. I had to really give myself that platform and other people who want to break that mold that society wants them to be in and be themselves. And I felt like my podcast could be that platform where they could talk about any kind of topic, like anything. I'm still on that journey. Like I still want to talk about really controversial, like really taboo topics, like when it comes to sexuality, when it comes to mental health, but in a way, like in a very deeper sense, how it affects us on an everyday basis. And yeah, hopefully I will be able to explore those avenues and explore those topics. But yeah, I think with my podcast, I am still on a journey of understanding, of truly being able to express myself and not feeling limited. I think I was having this conversation with you the other day on chat that I am sort of rethinking the format of my podcast because I feel sometimes limited in the way I have a conversation with people, and I get it. Like I don't know if you have gone through the same experience, but it's like if you invite someone on a podcast and most likely they haven't been on a podcast before, and it's for them it's like their first time experience. So you get those nerves, you get those jitters. Okay, it's my first time experience. You have to present your best self, and which is a good thing in a way. But I feel like I need to bring out that vulnerability in people and bring out that really the deep essence of who they are, like what ticks them, like what really do they think about a lot of things, and being able to express that freely and feel that open and safe, have that open and safe environment where they can express themselves completely. That's what my ultimate goal is. Without fearing anything, without fearing about what they have said after the podcast, because a lot of times what happens, like, oh, I might have said that, like, can you just edit it out? And no, like I want people to say what exactly they are thinking at that moment. It might be wrong, it might be right, but the point is that as humans we should be allowed to express ourselves. It might not be correct, You know what I mean? Like politically correct. And you are allowed to change your opinion. And that's what I want to encourage people, that you do transform as a person. So it's okay if you said something wrong. It's okay if you said something which you don't agree with at this moment, but you might, change your opinion 4 days later or 4 months later, and being okay with it, and realizing that it's okay for you to change your opinion about something, and not feel bad about it. Like, oh my God, what that person is going to think that I said that. No, like, it's okay. And I feel like, and with this whole like cancel culture and everything, that has made me realize that we personally cancel people all the time. Like we do. Like I can go on this topic a lot, but I personally feel like in a lot of ways we do that. And we need to stop, you know, making people feel that way. Like let them be, let them express themselves. It's fine.
Yeah. I think that's a tremendously complex topic,
It is.
and it's super difficult. Like you touch a few points there that I'm very passionate about personally. Um, One of the things that I completely love, and one of the things that I want to inspire, and uh, one of the things that I always aim in my interactions is for people to feel comfortable with who they are in
Yeah.
whatever setting, whether as we're just talking, we are at work, or we're dancing or whatever. I just want people to feel comfortable, not feeling judged. And I think that's something that it's quite strong, and it's always been strong, uh, especially when you come from where we come from, with the type of society that we come from, that there's a lot of judgment, especially now, that just because you said something back in 2012, you're going to be judged. And I think that it's really important that what you said about people are allowed to change. And it's critical to understand that, because that's one of the things that makes us people, is that we are super, super different from the version we were several years ago. And I know that because I see it in my own development. I see it in
Mm-hmm.
the history of my own self, that the person, like the guy that it's inhabiting this vessel of body right now, is very, very different than the one that 8 years ago had very different opinions. And I actually look back at some opinions that I had, and I am very ashamed of them. I am very repented of them. And I don't think it's bad to be like, oh, I actually had a shit opinion, backtrack to that. But I think it's the most important thing is that I don't have that opinion anymore, and that I was capable of evolving. I was capable of changing. I was capable of loving more. I was capable of being more patient, of being more tolerant. And a lot, and I understand a lot of people that have awful opinions nowadays, that we consider awful opinions nowadays, by the way, because a lot of the things that we think now, well, there's a lot of outrageous things that are happening now that we will see in 50 years time, or that society will see in 50 years time. So it will change anyway. People 50 years
Mm-hmm.
from now on will cancel everyone that's canceling anyone. So the thing is, I think that the possibility of giving everyone the chance to change, and to accept that difference, and also realize that a lot of people have the awful thought processes because of ignorance. I think
Mm.
it's very, very important. We see ignorance as the ultimate terrible thing, but I think that ignorance is an important part of everyone's development.
Yeah. I can sort feel you on these on your opinions, because I have been going through the exactly the same thought process this year. I think this year has been really um, eye-opening when it came to learning about how people really think, and how people see you as a person, and how people see you politically, how they see you spiritually, how they see you physically. Like, a lot of things have come out, and I know it sort of sounds like I'm patting myself on my back, but I pride myself in growing to be that person where I'm very open-minded. I'm very open-minded to listening to people with extreme views, with polar opposite ideas, and still learning from them and from where they're coming from. And I also pride myself in accepting that I have been wrong and that I have reacted, not in a way that I should have. Like a lot of times in the moment or in a heated moment, you can react in a way that's not you. And then obviously days later or months later, I've reflected on that. And yeah, have learned that that was probably not the best reaction. I've actually gone back to those people and apologized. And that's what I pride myself in, because I don't think there's any shame in owning up to your behavior and owning up to your actions if you know that you have done something wrong. A case in point would be, I remember having, like years back, I'm talking like 7 or 8 years ago, I had like some bullshit political divisive opinion about something about when I was living in India. And I had a friend on Facebook, and he posted something and I posted something. It became like this whole, this typical Facebook argument fight. And I remember reacting because it was his post. He can post whatever he wants, right? And it was me who came onto that, like, who went to his post and wrote stuff and made him, feel angry and just doubt himself for even thinking those things, like how he could have that political ideology. And I remember him and me, like, I don't know who unfriended whom, but we unfriended. We left on a really bad note, right? Didn't speak to him for like, I usually was not speaking to him because we were like he was like a college buddy. But anyways, we had that sort of, friendship.
Polarized opinions, yeah.
Yeah. And then I remember 4 years later, and I don't exactly remember when it was, but I think it was a couple of years later, I always felt bad about it. You don't feel good about these things. It's only in the heat of the moment that you say or do something. And I never felt bad about it. And I always hesitated and going back and saying sorry for that. And I actually did it. I think a couple of years later, I wrote him like a nice message. I said, you remember that thing that happened? And because of which we are no longer friends, like we don't talk at all. So I really apologize. I think we've grown as people. I completely respect you as a person, and I'm sorry if I offended you in any way. I think it was foolish. And yeah, he said the same thing, and he was pretty happy that I did it. So that sort of made me learn that, people are usually nice. They are accepting. People can be bad or rude in that moment, but I don't think anyone feels good about being bad to others. They generally feel it. But I think the problem lies in feeling that shame that comes from owning up to your behavior. And now I've become that person. In 2020, I can finally say that I have actually become that person, 99%, that if I do something wrong in probably any heated moment or whatever, I'll be the first person to apologize. I'll be the first person to own up to that action or misdemeanor or misbehavior, whatever. So yeah, I think that's been a massive learning for me this year. So I'm very proud of myself.
So you're saying that you learned that this year?
I have learned a lot about myself this year. Yeah, I think this whole COVID situation has made us think so much about ourselves, about how we think, how we value friendships. And okay, on the topic of friendships, I really want to, like, I have had a deep understanding. I feel this year especially has been very revelatory in terms of the friendships that I have, the friendships that I've formed. You have friends, like it's fine. You have social friends, you have friends that you talk to, you have online friends. There are a lot of friends that you have, but
Yeah.
it's so important to identify few of those friends that really value you as a person, no matter what you're going through in life. And they understand your they really understand who you are as a person, and they don't judge you for what changes you're having in a particular moment in life. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah, I
Like your
know what you.
childhood friends, no matter what, how your life is transforming to be, your childhood friends will always be your childhood friends. They would always see you as that, little boy who used to be at the school. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, there's that innocence in that friendship. And I think we are losing that innocence in friendships. We are not really holding on to it. We're not really seeing people as humans. Like, this is, just seeing them at a very human level. I think it's becoming more about what you think, what you are, what you eat, what you wear, it's becoming so much about that. And I feel like it's such a dangerous territory because we would end up alienating so many people like that.
Mm.
So this year for me has been really, yeah, I think I have gained a few friendships that I'm so happy and excited about. I'm so makes me so happy because these people, despite my ebbs and flows that I'm going through in my life, this year has been really challenging financially, emotionally. I didn't have a job for like months. I didn't know where I was at in life, in relationship, in a career. Like, I was going through these really tough emotional phases, at the same time keeping my sanity and keeping my um, you know, calm and composure self. And these friendships have held me generously despite me not being my best self. And still, through their words, through their actions, through their calls, through, you know, just have made me feel welcomed and embraced me for who I am as a person, despite my situation, which I really, really like. I'm so happy about. Like, I'm actually so happy to have gained few friendships. At the same time, I feel like I have lost a few people because of having different political views.
Right.
And that has also made me understand that not that it's not like I've lost, you know what I mean? Like, people, when they slyly unfollow you, unfriend you, they don't want to tell you, but they do that. And it's okay. And I feel like it just makes me realize that how much I need to know about people to really understand how deep that friendship is. And sometimes when we overvalue some friendships and we are not aware of, and then we feel hurt because you thought that that friendship meant a lot, but apparently for them it was just about, you know, and it hurts you because because in your head you have overvalued that friendship. Um, so yeah, that has been like a great learning for me this year.
Figure out who's a good friend and who's not
Who's
a
a
real
real
one.
friend? Who's a real friend and who's
Yeah.
but at the same time, you know what? I also feel like the same people are also going on they are also on their journey. They have their own
Yeah.
journey.
Yeah.
So they will maybe come to realize what they did, maybe realize that what standards they have set for themselves in terms of friendship. Maybe their standards will change. Maybe they will evolve. They will not. Like, everyone's on their own journey.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
So nobody's wrong or right or anything, but it's just a learning that I've had for myself, that how I'm going to value friendships from now on. But yeah,
So how are you valuing friendships from now on?
through words and through actions, through how they treat you when you are going through difficult times, when you're probably not expressing it, but it's pretty evident, when they actually want to know your situation, when they actually want to really ask you how you are, and not just let it be about, the the superficial things, and just actually knowing about each other and actually just making that random call, just checking in on you, just knowing how you're doing. Like, I think that's the best way to actually value where your friendship is at with those people. And I have never had that. Like, I've had a few people, friends who are really nice, and but this year I've actually realized that, yeah, some, like, your real good friends will do that. And yeah, I think that's how I'm gonna value my friendships from now on.
Yeah. Yeah, this quarantine has been good to realize, yeah, who your people are, who your tribe is, and it's it's I think it's one of the biggest pleasures to find people who you can connect with in a real level, and that value you who you are as a person. Yeah, I think that's one of the best things that can happen. You know, that there are
Yeah,
people that actually care about, hey, are you okay? All right, fine. We can't. We don't need to speak every single day, but it's
yeah,
like there is this love, real love for the essence of who you are, despite of
yeah,
what you're doing, or despite of that the I don't know, that you can't go to the club anymore on the weekends with them, or despite that you can't go for dinner or whatever. It's not about that. In the end, is those are just excuses to just mingle with your soul.
yeah. That has been exposed as well. Like, I remember hanging out with a lot of people when it came to like social gatherings, like, okay, oh, there's a party, so let's go. So you're meeting them over there. But this COVID situation has, actually, made you realize that if those friendships were of any bigger value in your life, or were you overjudging or overvaluing those friendships over other things? And you were, probably, because they were just about those moments and not about any long lasting feelings or long lasting emotions that you could develop into something bigger and something more meaningful, and you can create something beautiful out of it. And I feel it's okay. Like, sometimes you just wanna, you just wanna dance and you just wanna hang out, and it's fine. So yeah, I'm not judging any of it. But at the same time, personally, I would give importance to some friendships more over to the others. You know what I mean? Just in terms of how I'm conducting with my life, because I really believe in what you surround yourself with, who you surround yourself with really affects the outcomes of your life. So you also have to be careful in who you are surrounding yourself with all the time, how their energy is seeping into your space. Um, I think the older you grow, you just, you have tighter circle. You're not, I don't know if it applies to everyone. Personally, I
I
feel like the older
think
I'm growing, yeah.
I think that the more you grow, the more you realize how little or less time you have for bullshit.
I know.
So So just picking the right people is just an essential part of growing up. It's an essential part of achieving the things that you really want to achieve. So yes, it's something that you really need to go. You need to be super selective. Yeah, that's how I see it. I don't have time. I don't have much time for bullshit anymore because I'm getting older. I'm close to dying, and for me, that's a very important. It's an important perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a really important perspective. Like, I don't really call it bullshit, but for me, it's like that is not
I
serving.
call it bullshit.
You call it bullshit? Okay, you call it bullshit. But yeah, you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah, I know what you mean.
yeah. So that's how it is. And it's okay to, I think self-care is also, that's also one way of self-care. You are sort of reserving that energy, and you want to invest that energy in the right people. And that's how it
Yeah.
should be. Yeah.
Yeah, and that doesn't take away from the fact that I think that I believe that you should be kind to everyone, and you should uh, give love to
Yeah.
everyone in every single interaction that you have. So, but that doesn't mean that you have to be friends with every single person that you meet. And I think
Yeah.
that doesn't happen, and it's not viable either.
Yeah. Yeah, I also feel like the whole business, if a lot of people say, oh, that person is, introvert, they're not really online, they don't really text or call. So if they're not texting you, calling you the whole year or checking in on you, it's okay because that's their personality. I think that's bullshit. Like you being introvert and you being not online doesn't mean that you cannot care for the other person in your life. I think that's just like a complete excuse for just not wanting to be in that friendship.
Mm.
So I think, yeah, I'm also like done with those people who just
Like
like,
the I'm too busy kind of thing.
yeah, I'm too busy. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah, I did. Yeah,
Well,
like,
yeah, that for me, it's like I believe that busy is a decision, that you decide what you're busy for, you decide what you have time for.
yeah,
For me, that's a fact, you know? Like I
mm,
think that we all have time for the things that we care about all the
yeah,
time. You know, so if someone is not really giving you time, it's because you're not an important aspect in their life.
yeah,
And that's super okay.
yeah. That's perfectly
And
normal.
that's as much as you give the importance to that person, I think they have the same amount of freedom and power to give you the amount of importance that they want to give you. So but in the end, if someone is not checking on you, if someone is not giving you the time of day, if someone is not really giving you importance, in part, I mean, a big part is that they don't care. Another
Yeah,
part could be that, yeah, actually don't care, that they care about other things that they're more important and so on, which is good. And I think
totally agree.
it's super easy to realize. I think it's super easy to realize when someone really cares about you,
Mm.
really cares about what you have to say, or really cares about spending time with you. It's just very easy to control because you see it in actions.
Do you personally find it easy to navigate friendships?
Yeah,
Do you find it okay? I
yeah,
find
very
it
easy.
hard. I find it
Yeah,
hard.
yeah.
Yeah.
I I I don't know. I started discovering what I wanted from a friend, and uh, once I found a hobby, a niche that I loved, I was able to create amazing friendships and to discover amazing friendships from that point. I think that finding an activity that unites you with other people is key, not essential, not elemental, but it's key. And from then there are values that I stick to. So, for example, when I really know which my friends are, for example, for me, have to be with people that say yes to doing things, people that want to do stuff because I like to do a lot of things, you know. So if I invite a friend to, oh, let's go to this dance party, let's go to this gig, let's go to, and they never go to anything, for me that's like, all right, cool. We're not really on the same wavelength.
But if
Stuff like that.
what if they don't like that sort of dancing and want to probably hang out in some other space where you both can enjoy the same thing?
That's how I started. I started with that premise.
Okay.
And so I had a lot of yes people friends, and they are still one of my best friends. And then I started to evolve a little bit because at the same time, yeah, you start making decisions, but that doesn't mean that you're correct the whole time.
Mm.
So then you start realizing which actual attributes to which actual values are really important to you. So then I started realizing I get really uncomfortable with people that are gossiping or that are talking behind other people's back. So I started giving less time to those people, you know? So
Mm.
small things like those. I actually felt very uncomfortable when I didn't want to really get any type of influence from people that had very judgmental views about someone. I want people
Mm.
with open minds, you know, like I want to be friends with people with open minds that I can learn from. and things like that. So I think that's how you define your friendships as well. And then when you have a clear picture of which type of people you want to allow in your life, then friendships are super easy, because then you can just be yourself. And when you're just yourself, it's just the most organic thing, the most organic way to connect with anyone.
Yeah, that's super important, and yeah, I can totally relate with that.
Yeah. So there are a lot of friends that I have that I don't message in months, and that's okay, because we've pretty much got into that tacit agreement of it's okay, like you live in another country, I live in another country, you're busy, I'm busy, we have different time zones, but when we connect, it's real,
Yeah.
it's something important, so it's deep. And there are different types of friendships too, so I think that from then it's just really easy to maintain friendships and to have friendships.
Yeah, I've had the same thing. Like I've had friends who I haven't spoken to in even years, and I have just like spontaneously started talking to them during this COVID time, lockdown period, and we have had like 3 hours of conversation. Like it's just incredible because you don't really lose that mutual sense of love and respect for one another and the memories that you shared. And you can always start off from where you left, and you can still share great stories. And I feel like when you can do that with a person, you know that you are friends forever. And yeah, it's just, yeah, this what do you think of this whole year? Like, I don't know if I'm allowed to ask you questions in your podcast, but I was just like very curious.
This is just a conversation. This is not a podcast. You
Um,
can just say whatever you want.
yeah, so how do you have you had any deeper understandings during this lockdown, something that has made you realize something that you didn't know about or made you realize about yourself? Having the time to reflect. I know you live with a person, but I think you might have got a lot of time to reflect on yourself, on what you're doing.
Heaps of things. I've learned so much this year. It's probably one of the best years of my life,
Yeah,
hands
same.
down.
Yeah, for me.
Yeah. One of the things that I've been meditating on lately is that I don't need to have an opinion.
Okay,
And I don't need to have an opinion about everything.
true.
And that's something that I have been caught myself in a lot. Like I was like, all right, what am I meant to think about this? Or there's like this, and especially now that there's so many, there's such extremist views about a lot of social justice topics and cancel culture and the USA elections and the COVID situation and management of the pandemic
Oh,
and the economy and all these things. And it's either a lot of people think, or the mob is like in this vibe that it's, if you're not on my side of the mob, you're on the other. It's like,
yeah, yeah.
and I've gotten to the point that I feel confused, and I actually right now I feel very confused about COVID, about the
Mm,
COVID topic. I feel very confused. I really don't know
same.
what to think. And
Yeah.
then so I've been thinking, well, I actually there's a lot of stuff that I don't know. I have so many knowledge gaps in so many things, and that's really okay. And I like, yes, we can change our opinions, but at the same time, we don't need to have an opinion all the time about everything, you know?
Exactly.
So
Yeah. No.
that realizing that about for me, especially that I am quite an opinionated guy, gives me a lot of freedom.
Yeah.
Of, you know what, I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so super important to also realize and catch yourself when you are forcing yourself to be a part of a side rather than to
Mhm.
acknowledge that you probably don't want to be on any side. You just want to learn more about what's going on and then form an opinion, like a revised and educated opinion, rather than just going with that herd or mentality or mob mentality that you called it. Um, Yeah, that has been, yeah, something that I think I'm on the same page when it comes to like being confused about this whole lockdown situation, because I feel like there's no reference point. Like, have we ever had, like, we had a Spanish flu, but that was in 1918. Like, we haven't had a real pandemic in 100 years. Like, how does even the government know what they're supposed to do and what's going to work, what's not going to work? So I'm like, the government also is not sure about a lot of things. They're also testing and trialing. And at the same time, a lot of like these overt reactions of like, we're not going to follow the lockdown rules. It's bad. It's dictatorship. It's this and that. I find that also extreme. But at the same time, now I'm also like seeing like how government can be intrusive, like in terms of your rights, like because now they've extended the state of emergency. So I'm also like doubting like, okay, whether it's right or not. But at the same time, like I feel like nobody really knows what's how to solve this whole crisis, like, and it's okay to feel that confusion and not be on the side of anything and agreeing to everything. You can agree, disagree on the same thing on one side and not agree and disagree. You know what I mean? Like you don't
Yeah, I
really
know
have
what you mean.
sides.
Yeah, not because you like, for example, the Premier Dan Andrews, it means
Yeah.
that you have to be in accordance or agree with everything he says, and you can't find any type of correct thinking on the other side of the spectrum that say that lockdown is not necessary or that these measures are not good. Like there's layers of everything.
Yeah. And yeah, and I feel like, and at the same time, I feel like how me putting my whole energy into this whole topic and agitating myself just by listening all these news
Mhm.
and media outlets, by agitating myself, how am I even contributing into anything?
Yeah.
You know, I don't have any control over the situation. The most I can do is have a reasonable discussion with someone, with my close friends, and how they're feeling. Or in the worst case, if things get really worse, maybe, send an email to Dan Andrews or to the government or the local government saying that I don't agree with it. But apart from that, like, what exactly can you do? Like, I don't understand. Like, I don't think and I also feel like uh, we are so privileged. Like, I come from India. Like, in India, they've opened the economy. They have thousands of deaths every day. And we are here talking about our rights, right to not wear a mask in a time where, where things are so unpredictable, where our people are dying. And it's a very controversial subject. Like the death rate, the mortality rate is lower, and you have more deaths because of suicide and everything. But the fact is that at the moment there are deaths happening because of COVID, and if in any way we can help prevent it, then why not? And yeah, there's so many like conflicting views, and I'm like,
Yeah, so there's so many valid points, and that's why I declare myself completely confused about this whole situation
same.
because there's so many valid points, there's so many valid arguments. Like, yes, okay, Australia has the luxury of, or Victoria at least has the luxury of saying we're gonna be on stage 4. That's an actual luxury. We have an economic luxury of
Luxury.
making that
Yeah.
decision. In India or in my country, Chile, or the rest of Latin America, there's no such luxury. They have to open the
Yeah.
economy, and then they know their cases are going to surge and they have to close again. And they have to do that because they can't allow for other tragedies to happen. It's just that this huge conundrum and slippery slopes of situations. It's so we have that luxury here, but then yes, there is also this ethical conversation about, okay, how much can we allow the government to have a say about our freedom, our personal freedom? That's also a very important, I think, valid point. And then you have this other thing about, okay, if we have the right, or if we have a say on, or if we have an action to make everyone to stop people from dying, why wouldn't we? So there's just so many layers, so many optics views that are correct, in this whole situation. And I think that whether, like, in any type of decision, there's gonna be a lot of people that are gonna suffer. Doesn't matter which one it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's the heartbreaking part of it all.
Yeah. Yeah, I think my conclusion is that there is nothing good, bad, like there's nothing wrong or right about this whole situation. It's just has come to this point where everybody has come to this point where they just have to take a stand or have to act in a certain way. Like when it comes to the government, they have to do something. Pablo, like they can't, a country like Australia, which has um we are privileged in a lot of ways. A country like Australia cannot say to its people that, you know what, we're going to open up the economy and let people just, just let's see who survives and who doesn't. Like it's just going to be, they can't do that. Like as like I see myself, like if I was the head of the state and if people were dying on my watch, like I would be so uncomfortable saying, like, we'll just open up the economy and see whoever, like I understand that part as well. And I'm not being like super emotional and, compassionate with the government, that I'm really understanding their point and not other people's point of view. But I think it's important to understand or also put yourself in their shoes and see how you will really run the state or run the country. And I feel like at the end of the day, I'm just like, you know what? Nobody really knows what's right and wrong, and let's just accept it. But at the same time, what the government can do is open a forum where they can have these open conversations and discussions rather than being defined. Like, no, 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 these are conspiracy theories. No, 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 this is not what we're doing. Actually have the discussion and say, and just bring people in and tell them, like, no, this is not the thing. This is not what we are not trying to intrude in your rights or in your space. This is what we are trying to do just to help people. Like giving more assurance, having those discussions is, I think, what is lacking from the government side. Yeah.
Yeah, it's, well, in general, I think that there is a big disconnect between generations in how to have discussions and
Yeah.
how to have this type of debates. So, like, just going back to the point that we were talking about earlier, is that um, there's a lot of people think that because you have an opposing opinion to a specific subject that I have, you oppose me as a person. And then that collective feeling is just overwhelmingly powerful right now, in which a lot of people now are very afraid of expressing their own opinions about something. And one of my biggest fears is that we will, I think we're, and that's one of the things that I think is going to be really important, is that we're going to lose a lot of people having critical thinking or critical thoughts or having their own thought process about making their own opinions. And that I think is going to be really important, especially with things that are happening now. I think it's really important that people actually think critically about the role of government. I think that it's getting quite scary, I find, with especially with the movements that are happening right now with freedom of speech and freedom of information and all that kind of stuff that will affect personal freedoms. So I think that people, and like you and me, that we like to have these type of debates, we like to have these type of conversations, and we invite them, and just, if you have an opinion that you don't agree with me, you're not gonna ban me as a person. It's like,
No.
we need disagreements. We actually need to have
Yeah,
conversations. We need to have discussions. We need to have the
exactly.
debates. And
Thanks for
that's why
saying
everything
that.
is
Yeah.
and that's why everything is so polarized, because I think people take everything personal.
Everything personally, and also like this whole identity politics, like everybody wants to be part of something. And if you not if you're not subscribing to that political belief, you are automatically alienated. Like like people don't really want to interact with you on that because they will feel agitated because they can't put their personal feelings aside and really discuss the subject matter. I think what's happening is like people's personal political stance are becoming bigger than the subject matter. And there is this, this, how do I put it? Like this moral um, superiority, like which has not even been earned. Like people think they're morally superior to you because they have that political ideology, and the moment you challenge them, it's like saying that you are not. They attack you for that, and that is so wrong. Like who has given anyone the permission to be morally superior to anyone else? Like who? I don't get it. Like it just really baffles me that people have pride, like they have given themselves that permission to be morally superior over others because they hold a particular belief which is popular, but a popular opinion doesn't mean that it's correct. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. I think it has to do with our innate urge to be accepted and loved as human beings.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so the generation above us that there's a lot of like fights with, like, and we don't understand how they vote and whatever. They were the majority 40 years ago with their super conservative views. So the polar
Mm.
opposite. So they felt the same way. It was the moral
Yeah.
superiority of this whole thing, in which we need to belong to something. We need to feel there's so much value that it gets added when we belong to a thing, because we
Mm.
have this tremendous amount of fear to be left out. I think that being left out is one of the biggest fears that is just driving this whole dynamic.
And I'm fearful of that. Like, as much as I oppose cancel culture and I'll do anything in my capacity to overcome those fears, I am fearful because it has happened to me. Like, people disagreeing with you just because you hold a particular political belief.
Mm.
And that makes me wonder, like, should I be really that vocal? Should I really express myself? And that's like a legit fear people have. And that's like so bad. And that's
I,
just,
I, I think you need to be wise.
yeah.
So I believe that anyone could have a conversation about anything with anyone, theoretically, but in the practical sense, you need to be socially smart. You need to have your social IQ ready to know
Yeah.
when you can have those type of discussions. Um, and I think it has a lot to do with something that I've learned this couple of years is that people value the opinion based on who it comes from. So it doesn't really, people in general don't really, they don't really take or give as much value to the opinion based on the
Yeah.
opinion or by the weight of the opinion, from who it comes from. So
Mm.
let's say Trump said something completely, um, said something that was super inclusive of uh, homosexual
Yeah.
rights and black people rights,
Yeah.
everyone would be, or most people would be like, oh, he's doing that because whatever
Because
he
of,
wants to gain.
yeah.
Not,
Mm.
but you wouldn't value the opinion of the person itself, uh, because most people hate Trump. He's just
Mm.
this misogynistic pig. So why wouldn't you?
Mm.
So like that's an extreme example. But in the end, I've learned that I've been able to have really good discussions with people that are quite super cancel culture, that are super close-minded towards this kind of stuff. But I've been able to have them because I've been able to create a mutual respect, and a level of understanding that I value you way more as a person than what I
Mm.
value your opinion. or your opinion does not influence the value that I see in you as a person. And when we can create that connection,
Yeah.
we can actually have any type of discussion.
Yeah. Yeah, I completely, yeah, agree with that. I think it's also the way you communicate your opinion is so important. And that's something that I'm still learning, like how to
Yes.
communicate in a way that's sort of not attacking any person or not attacking any particular group, but also putting out facts and just generally, um, opening that communication channel where people would want to know more. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I feel like a lot of people just want to attack you and then you're just baffled. You're like, why is this person attacking me? I didn't say anything personal. Like, I didn't say
Yeah.
anything particular to them, but they sort of have thought that, okay, since I expressed myself, it's probably attacking them, and they have come onto my page and attacked me. And then I find myself confused. Like, how do I react to this? They are the ones who are taking offense. It's very difficult to be civil in that moment because they are coming on to me for just holding a political view or holding any view that I feel is right according to my knowledge. And that's when I take offense. Like, if you really want to have a conversation, let's talk facts. Let's talk facts. But I think it comes from the space of you are wrong. I have come here to tell you that you are wrong, and how dare you say that? And that's so wrong. And that I have corrected myself the times that I've done it in the past. I don't do that anymore. But I'm also quite forgiving now. I'm like, okay, if people are doing that to me, maybe they'll realize it later. But it's very difficult to have that civil conversation when they actually have built that wall and they already know that they're right. And they come on to you, they attack you, they say, like, oh, why did you say that? Like, I can say whatever I want. That's the point. If you really want to talk about the facts, I'm here to talk about them, but are you willing to listen? That's the problem.
Well, people are free to not listen to, and I think that it's really important to realize that it's okay if someone doesn't want to listen to your opinion.
Yeah, but then they
And
shouldn't come on to me when I express myself. They shouldn't come and tell me that I shouldn't express and then not listen. You know what I mean? It's okay to not listen if you have an opinion and I tell you something and you don't want to listen to me. That's a different thing. But if I am expressing myself and you are questioning me for having that opinion, and if I'm answering that and then you don't want to listen, that's a problem.
I mean, it depends though, and I think that, and something that I've learned is that you need to pick your battles.
Yeah,
There's
that's what I've
huge
learned.
growth. There's huge growth in picking your battles and losing some.
Yeah.
There's so much growth because there's so much love that you have to give for that, but
Yeah.
also there's so much ego that you need to kill in order to do that.
I'm I'm only raising these issues because I know that I am gonna like I have I am gonna be discussing a lot of um controversial, not controversial, well, basically like very taboo topics. And I know I will, like, when you come from, like, as a brown person, I know I will get a lot of backlash if I talk about sexuality or like a lot of things, like even like pole dancing that I do. Um, and I know once I open myself to that conversation on YouTube or Spotify as a platform that I haven't done in as much depth. But I remember doing an interview with SBS and I talked about pole dancing. And most of the messages were nice, but I got like 5% of the messages that I received were very like condescending. And, you just, this is not how you be a brown person. You are a blot to our community and stuff like that. And I know that there are going to be people like that, but at the same time, yeah, I'm trying to actually preserve my energy. I'm actually trying to learn how I'm going to respond to that in the future. Like, I'm also like sort of saying like how, like, I don't want to be in that agitated mind where I'm taking everything personally, or
Yeah.
because it hurts at
What
the end of the day. A negative comment hurts you. And
I know, I completely, I understand that. But the other optic you can look at it is, so there's this group of people that are going to be nasty, and you know they're going to be, and it's the 5%. But why are
Yeah,
you choosing to focus on the 5% when you have this 95% of people that
I
are
know.
giving you the proper energy? And I think that's part of human, just the human existence, in
Well,
which we
yeah.
we
Like
focus on
even
the 5% that is not working when the 95% is just going amazing.
yeah, it's also like a learning, like it's also a skill that you develop emotionally
Yeah.
that you're not, it's not something that I'm used to, getting that attention. And maybe in the future it will be 45, 55, 45, negative 55, which is also a huge number. But yeah, yeah, I think these are all skills, like handling your emotions, but at the same time, it's important to introspect and reflect on how you're feeling and how you're going to deal with it in the future. And I think this year I'm just learning how I'm feeling and how this makes me feel and how I'm reacting and how my reaction has made me feel, how it has made them feel, and how I can respond to it better. Um, yeah, just been a massive learning curve this year in a lot of ways.
Yeah, well, you have a tremendous amount of pressure, I think, especially from your background, you know. There is this whole attention that you get from your side.
Um, yeah, it's been mostly positive, and I'm actually pretty lucky that my parents are very supportive. They're super supportive. Imagine not having supportive parents and facing that from your family. Um,
Yeah.
I don't know about relatives, but family is good. Um, yeah, relatives is
Uh,
another. But yeah, mostly it's been good, and I'm actually very excited to be able to use my platform, like my podcast, to open up conversations on like a lot of topics that brown people as a culture do not talk about.
yeah.
Like we don't talk about sexuality. We don't talk about how sex is important, how we should be having sex, like what,
Mm.
like, like it's not really talked about. And yeah, I really want to start being able to talk about these things. And cancel culture is a big part of our culture. Big. I think it probably started from India. I don't know. I feel like we cancel people for every goddamn thing. Everything. You say one thing, you're canceled for life. Like and it's surprisingly, I didn't know of this term until recently. I think I only learned about cancel culture this year. It was only because of, when people who was having different political opinions were expressing themselves on Twitter, they were being canceled. And I remember, and I had realized that I was canceling people as well, and I didn't even realize it.
Mm.
So, having that um, introspection and reflection that I was doing that myself unknowingly in a lot of ways. By canceling, I mean like not listening to them or not really, paying attention or just being like, oh, that's bullshit. And not really listening it was my problem. And I think I've sort of overcome that. No matter how bad politically or in any sphere of life you have completely different view, I'm still open to listening to you, to understanding you, where you have come from, where you have gathered your information. And I actually this year I made a friend, again, one of those friendships that I really hold close to my heart, and that's like Melanie, one of my friends. She is actually kind of like a hunter. Like she now lives in the outback, and she has had that sort of hunter experience. She loves that sort of. She hasn't really killed a lot of animals or anything, but she loves the chase and whatever. And I
Yeah.
had this like, and she's such a good friend of mine. Imagine, because I'm a vegan, so vegan and a hunter, like that, just like, oh, outrageous. How can you even? But
Right.
she's actually one of my best mates. And that's what I feel is so that I've learned that you can value people. Like, I don't have to impose my values on her. I don't have to impose whatever I feel on her and, and just not respect her or not value her for the other things that she has to offer to me or in this friendship. She's so much more than what she is excited about or what she eats. Like is such a nice person, compassionate person. And I know a lot of vegans will say that, oh, that's so double standard, that's so, but it's it's not. You respect, there's so many things that we do that are double standards, like that sort of reeks of double standards. Like I can't really call myself a true environmentalist, even though I say that I'm, in a way, like I believe in the environment. I think we should do everything good for the environment. But do we really? Like, do we really? No, we don't. So if we start, you know, um, alienating people on the basis of how they live their life, we are not going to reach any consensus. We're not really going to get to any point. And the good thing is, because of that whole friendship, she was actually a vegan when she was living in the city. Now she's in the outback. She would eat vegan all the time because she was excited to share things with us and share recipes with us. And she was eating more vegan. And that's a step ahead in a way. And we had this whole conversation about why she thinks that hunting is okay. Like why she thinks that it's ethical in a way. It's for me, it's not. And we can disagree on that. And I think that was so, I still don't agree with her. And she possibly doesn't agree with me, but we can put our political, or we can put our opinions aside, and we can sort of still be great friends and share that great friendship. So yeah.
Shout
What
out
do
to
you think?
Melanie.
Yeah, shout out
I
to
think
Melanie.
I think that a lot of things are situational. I think that it's important to consider a lot of aspects. So, for example, I would never hunt. In this example, I would never hunt.
Same.
But I think that hunting is necessary. I don't think
Okay.
I think it's and it depends a lot in the context. So, for example, hunting it's essential for conservation right now in Africa, for the conservation of species, because hunting funds all the conservation efforts in Africa. Without hunting, there's no conservation funds. Without there's poachers that just take everything and kill everything. So there's a slippery slope there. There's what's ethical there, if you don't hunt, you get species that just overpopulate this area, and they create this imbalance in nature, which then makes all these or creates all these other situation of species dying or disappearing from flora, from other fauna. So you need the balance. In the end, it's all about the yin and yang. It's all about balance. It's all about the situation. You gotta put things into context. For example, hunting it's a really interesting subject, because I don't think it's I wouldn't do it personally, but I think it's necessary.
Yeah, see, now I'm baffled because I don't have all the facts at this point, so I feel defeated. But then it's okay. Then it's that's the
But
thing. Like,
it's
it's
not
okay to not
it's
have.
not a thing that anyone wins or not. It's
No, no,
just.
no. My point was like it's okay to just accept that okay, you don't have all the facts, and at the same time, it's okay to acknowledge that other people can have different views, and it's fine. My whole point, like I might not know the complete situation about Africa, but my whole point comes to that we have come to this point where we have bred so many animals into existence that it's our fault ourselves. Like first it's humans, because of which we have this sort of this whole conservation crisis, and now we are blaming the animals for it. So it's not really their fault, but at the same time I do understand that if there is a problem, and if that's the only way to get rid of that situation, but then at least understand, or at least acknowledge that that it was humans in the very first place who created that problem. And then maybe in the future, what are you going to do about it? Like, after you have killed all those animals, what are you going to do about the situation in the future? Like, how are you not going to allow breeding of so many animals into existence? And that's the problem. Like, nobody actually thinks about these things. It's more about, okay, what are we going to do now in terms of conservation? How are we going to get rid of this problem? And yeah, my whole problem comes with just not even acknowledging that we have created a lot of these situations, a lot of these conservation problems, and we are responsible for it, and not blaming animals for it. Animals are just doing whatever they have to do. It's Earth. Like, we share the planet with animals, and we are the ones who have intruded these spaces, these wildlife, these parks and so many sanctuaries, and we want them to live a certain way. Like, is that, why? Like, they're just going to do whatever they have to do, and we should do whatever we have to do. We are in their way. We shouldn't be. But I understand what you're saying.
I mean, I think humans are an important part of the picture in nature. Like, we're just another animal that evolved and that just became the maximum predator. What's the name of the apex predator? So, I mean, I going down the path of, I think humans are the wrong thing about everything. I don't think that's. I understand the sentiment, but I don't agree with it. We're just another animal that has figured out different things. Like, I don't know, beavers figure out that using sticks and logs will create a dam so they can get more food. So it's just, we're just all using different tools, In the end, it all has to do with the values and what do you think that we have to do. For example, I think that the purpose of life is to preserve life. I think that humans are instinctively and from an evolution point of view are created to preserve life. It's just to remain alive and then to procreate. That's the whole point. So in the end, life is the most precious thing. So when you start from that point of view, it's all about preserving your life in the physical way and then continuing it. The way that you can do that is by making sure that the place that you inhabit, it's a place that is safe for you to live. And then you go down this rabbit hole of, okay, you need to have all the resources for you to feed yourself, for you to have shelter, for you to be safe from other predators, and so on. So in the end, I still think it's all situational. I think it's like, for example, foxes are a huge issue in Australia. Foxes are not endemic from Australia. What they cause this huge imbalance by eating all these different natural Australian that had no predators before fauna, and that creates an imbalance, because then when you don't have these little marsupials that are not eating these bushes and this from the natural habitats, then you create a superpopulation of this bush, and then you have all these massive fires because there's not enough wildlife to eat it. So in the end, it's just this huge
there's a whole
thing that happens. So you need to create balance somehow. I think that having legal hunting and all that creates I mean, obviously humans were the start of the problem by introducing foxes, for example, into Australia, which came from a place of ignorance because they wanted to hunt, I don't know, something. But in the end, like, what can we do now is just create solutions, and one of those solutions is to introduce hunting in certain parts because of certain reasons.
Well, I'm not super educated on this, so I will reserve my opinions, but I completely understand. And sometimes I feel like, when it comes to veganism, I think my philosophy is, when they say like complete elimination of animal use in any shape or form, I don't think that's a practical possibility. I don't see that. Like, for me, it's reducing. But that said, that doesn't mean that I can be vegan sometimes and not be vegan sometimes. I personally subscribe to 100% vegan lifestyle. Like, I don't want to buy anything that's made of animals, or I don't want to eat something which is made out of animal products. But at the same time, I am more than happy if majority of the world's population sort of embarks on this journey where they see animals as sentient beings and they treat them respectfully and make decisions based on that and just reduce their harm to animal species in general. Like that's what I think is more realistic. Yeah, and as coming from like privileged societies where we have everything that we can possibly ask for in terms of food, clothing, shelter, basic, like we have everything. We have more than what we need. I think it should be more, I think people should understand their privilege first and realize that how much they can be helping this cause just by really understanding what they're doing to that species. But then at the same time, I feel like it has to come from within. You need to really have that emotional connection to animals. Otherwise, you can't really understand the philosophy, because I became vegan only last year. So it's been a year and a half for me. But before that, I was vegetarian for 2 years. And the reason why I was vegetarian was because I didn't really understand to the core why it was important. And I think it takes time for everyone. But at least be open-minded. All I want is being a vegan to any other person is just be open-minded to the possibility that you might feel that emotional connection to animals and not want to consume meat or use them or abuse them and in any shape or form. And that's also a big thing in itself. Just that realization.
Yeah, definitely. I think that being open to that is just really important. I think that everyone should decrease their meat consumption, whether they're vegan, vegetarian or not. I think that's really important for the environment, from an ethical point of view too, and yeah, just the openness, like just to have the conversation. But also, I think it's just part of the process of assimilating new things, new tendencies. Like if we compare 5 years ago till now, veganism is way more accepted now. It's just part of our society. It's part of. So I think that's part also of the process. I think people need to get used to things that happen with every single type of movement that's happened. Is people have a first impression of, oh, I don't want that, and then, oh, it's still there. Oh, okay. Oh yeah, that thing. In the end, it's people just get used to things. So I'm super sure that in a few years' time, the majority, or at least almost half of our population, will be preferring plant-based options for sure.
I think so too. I think we have made huge, we have had a huge momentum in terms of a lot of people rising and talking about veganism as a whole, even if they think completely, they're not, aligned with the philosophy. They have different motives for being vegan. I think a lot of vegans I see, they're for diet reasons. They want to look thin, they want to be skinny, or they just want to have that glow on their face, and they are vegan for like different reasons. And I feel like even those people can have some sort of impact, because I think once you become vegan, you sort of start thinking about so many things about your consumption, and you are exposed to so many other ideas that any progress is a good progress. That's what I'm trying to say, that whatever we have achieved, it's good. And I'm very positive about this whole social movement, which is probably gonna increase in size, and more people coming to that realization that animals are as sentient beings as we are, and they just need to be treated with respect. That's it. Be it your dogs, be it pigs, be it cows, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that understanding comes from your connection and like everyone's connection to the universe and to nature and who we are. So I think that if there's not an awakening of that sort, it's going to be really difficult for Frank, who's 65, lives in Bandura, to be able to empathize with a pig, you know?
Yeah.
I think it has to do with that. It has to do with who is it that you think you are, and what's your role in the universe. And yeah, I think it's that. I think that it's a spiritual thing. I
It
think it's
is.
just a deeper thing. Yeah.
For me, it was personally a spiritual thing. Yeah, I think it has to be kind of like a spiritual thing to have that lifestyle, like all of your life, not eating any animal products. I think it's a massive change in you, the person. So yeah, I definitely think it has to be spiritual. Otherwise, you won't be able to see.
And then if you think about it, that's just faith. That's just you deciding that that's how things are better, and like you have this conviction that yes, animals are sentient beings, that we are connected. It is in a sense a spiritual belief, so Frank, who's 65 years old and lives in Bandura, may have a very different spiritual belief, and in the end, you get to the same point that we were talking about earlier. But yeah, it's I think that in the end, progressively, everyone will have a certain sense of understanding, like now most of us have the understanding that being racist is bad, so it's like it's just things that we now take like obviously, how are you not gonna blah blah blah. There's a lot of beliefs that we're gonna acquire down the track as well.
Yeah Agree with you on that.
I think we can talk about so many things and about for a long time. Love it. So just before we finish, I forgot to ask you the question I ask everyone, but we'll do it on another one. But to finish, I want to ask you if you could travel in time and have an evening with 19-year-old Rashi, what would you tell her? What piece of advice would you give her?
Oh. Okay, well, to be honest, my childhood wasn't the best childhood. So when I was 19, I was actually at a very pivotal stage in my life where I had a very big spiritual awakening and transformation. And I don't speak about this a lot because a lot of times I know my parents will hear it and I don't want to traumatize them. But I was actually gonna thought of committing suicide when I was 19. Like, I have always been that person. Like, I think when I was 13, when I was 12 to 18 or 19, 12 to 19, I always had like really strong urges of committing suicide. But at 19, I was at a point when I actually was gonna do it. But I didn't. And that was because of a very big realization that I had, that who am I committing suicide for? And that was because of a person who had put me in a terrible situation that I was in. And I realized that this is my life. Like, I don't know how that realization came, but it just came, and it just was like, no, I can't do this. And that changed my life in so many ways. I think from after that point, all I thought about was myself. I put myself ahead of everything, every person in the world. And I might have been selfish in a lot of ways, but I think it was important for me to do that, to be selfish, to put myself ahead of others, to think about my emotions and my feelings. So if I go back in time, I would actually be very content, and I would applaud, and I would literally shake hands with my 19-year-old self and give her a pat on her back and see, like, you are amazing, and you're amazing for what you have realized. And don't worry, after 15 years, you're going to think, or after 12 years, which is now, you're going to think, that was so stupid. Like, that was you putting any other person in front of you, ahead of you, was such a stupid thing. Like, and yeah, I'm just going to congratulate that person and hug her and be like, you do whatever you want in life and not be bothered about anything.
Wow, that's so powerful. That's amazing. Thank you. Thank you
Yes,
for sharing
anyone.
that. And I'm so happy that you're still here. I'm so happy
Oh,
that
thank
you're impacting people's lives in a good way, and that you're creating um, these instances and scenarios where people can be happy and or comfortable, and that you're asking all the questions, all the rational questions. I think that's so valuable, so powerful. So yeah, it's amazing.
Thank you so much. And I think it was very intuitive of you to actually go back in time and tell me to talk to my 19-year-old self. I think that was intuitive because I don't think you knew about it. And yeah.
Well, I didn't know about it, but I can't claim credit because that's a question I ask to every single guest.
Okay.
19
Well,
year
then
old.
this
So
is just the truth.
it was meant to be. This is just the universe wanting for you to share that.
Oh,
Thank you.
thanks so much, Pablo. But yeah, and I also want to congratulate you on your podcast. I think I love it. I love your voice. I love the free flowing, um, concept and the flow of the podcast. I think I've heard 3 podcasts so far. I will listen to the others as well. And I really like it. I love the music. I love the way you're doing it. I think, yeah, you're going to do so well. And yeah, just be you, keep doing you, and keep being awesome.
Thank you. That's very kind of you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
No
Thank you.
worries.
All right, my friends, we'll end this now, and we need to do it soon again.
Yeah.
Hopefully you can come to my humble abode and we can do it face to face, because I think it has
Oh, yeah.
so much value.
I'm craving for video interviews so much.
Yeah, me
I
too.
really want to.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the conversation, please follow me on social media. You can follow me on my personal Instagram account, el_pap with double B. So it's el_PABB. And also you can follow Rashi on Instagram as well at I am Rashi Yadav. So it's I am Rashi YADAV. Give her some love and give her some support for her awesome podcast and all the things that she is doing online. Anyway, guys, hope to listen to you soon. Please send me any questions you may have, or any guests that you have asked for me to, or suggestions that you may have for me to have a conversation with, or anything at all. I'd love to hear from you, and thank you so much for the support. Love you greatly. Goodbye.